Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate very much your generous invitation to be here tonight. We are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published.
In Dallas, Texas, 3 shots were fired at President Kennedy.
Welcome to Norwich's 2025 Military Writers Symposium.
So unconventional warfare operates in the shadows. It emphasizes influence, disruption, and perception more than large-scale force. It targets the will of society before it targets its infrastructure or military forces. Success is measured not in territory gained, but in confidence lost, trust eroded, and alliances strained. It leverages ambiguity, the space between war and peace, where attribution is uncertain and consequences are delayed. Narratives become weapons. Ideas become ammunition. Audiences become operational terrain. JFK's words ring true today in 2025. Knowing history isn't just about repeating it. History can define the present and also chart the future. The audio and video was created by Cadet Jaden LaVecchia, Dylan Zanke, Justin Agri, and Ruby Noth. The 3 of you stand, please. Let's give them a round of applause. Thanks, guys. So my name is Dr. Travis Morris, and I have the privilege and honor of being the Executive Director for the Military Writers Symposium and the Director for the Peace and War Center. I'd like to welcome all of you to the 2025 Military Writers Symposium, and we welcome our distinguished guests that have traveled here from all over the world and the country to be here with us, and we're honored by your presence. General Gruen, sir, it's an honor to have you here, and we look forward to hearing your remarks here in a few minutes. So the Military Writers Symposium, it exists to advance our understanding of significant challenges that we face in the 21st century. Our nation's future leaders, the students and cadets in this room and on this campus, will see a battlefield that is fought on multiple domains, both in peacetime and in war. Preparing leaders for the future is Norwich's business. We've been doing this for 206 years. Norwich is currently a thought leader in cyber and information warfare. So over the next 2 days, we have an excellent program for you. We'd like to encourage all of you to attend as many sessions as you can, ask questions, and interact with our guest. The Military Writer Symposium and the Kobe Award would not be possible without the support of the university leadership and the Pritzker Military Museum and Library. So a heartfelt thanks, sir. General Broadmeadow, sir, thank you for your support. The Provost and Dean of the Faculty, Dr. Williams, thank you for your support. Dr. Tara Kulkarni, Associate Provost for Research and Chief Research Officer, thank you, and Brigadier McCullough, Commandant, and Vice President for Student Affairs, thank you so much for your support and also for colleagues and staff that have helped with this event. So this year's theme, you've seen the posters around campus, you've seen it on social media, the shadow front, unconventional approaches to warfare. So we emphasize that this battle space is no longer confined to geography, but it spans digital platforms, financial systems, cultural identity, and belief structures. So the next 2 days, we're here to unpack what exactly that means. So this morning, General Gruen will deliver our keynote address. After his remarks, a cadet will offer some summative comments and 2 questions, and then after that, we would like to open the floor to question and answers from all of you. So this microphone over here will be open for Q&A, so please have your questions ready. It's now my pleasure and honor to introduce Lieutenant General Gruen. However, this is where the traditional introduction ends. We can do better. This symposium is about unconventional warfare. There it must be required to leave convention at times. And so most moderators at this point would just read some portion of his bio, but we have a different format to introduce his 36 years of United States Marine Corps experience. So, to the aspiring leaders across all domains in the room, take note. General Gruen, he is a strategic systems thinker. He repeatedly served in roles where he was not just executing operations, but redesigning how the U.S. military thinks, plans, and fights, particularly in intelligence and emerging technology. He's a bridge between operators and technologists. His path from combat intelligence in Iraq to leading computer network operations for the NSA and later the Joint Artificial Intelligence Center shows an ability to translate combat realities into next-generation adaptation. He's a reformer and an institutional architect. He didn't just simply fill billets or lines, he built and restructured organizations, like redesigning the Marine Intelligence Operation in Iraqi freedom. His leadership led to the formation of the Joint Intelligence Operations Center. He led the development of the Marine Corps' intelligence surveillance reconnaissance enterprise, and he's been on the leading edge for the integration of AI across the DoD. He's a warfighter scholar, multiple graduate degrees, distinguished graduate recognition, Stockdale Fellow. He's a leader who thinks deeply and acts decisively. He's the author of With the 1st Marine Division in Iraq, 2003, No Greater Friend, No Worse Enemy. He's an interdisciplinary integrator. He's led intelligence planning across Europe, Africa, the Middle East, and the Pacific. And finally, he is a future-focused leader. His final active duty role transformed joint warfighting with AI, and this shows a leader committed to preparing the United States for the next form of conflict, not the last one. So let me just say that last sentence again. It shows a leader committed to preparing the United States for the next form of conflict, not the last one. Let's welcome him to the stage with a Norwich round of applause, sir. Welcome to Norwich.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Really wonderful to be here today. Thank you, Travis, for the great introduction. I hope I can live up to that. You do a lot of things in the military, and sometimes it's actually educational to have those things reviewed. But you're like, wow, that's right, I did that. Yeah, I had the opportunity to do that. And I will tell you, my career, and so and all of you, have great careers in front of you, was a series of happy accidents. And so I'll just throw that out at you, because I saw lots of people over the course of my training and education and operational career, people that were they had a target, and that was the target they were going to hit, and I'm going to be this kind of person, I'm going to have this kind of billet, and I think in a lot of cases they had such a narrow field of view that they kind of lost the big picture, right? And so I would just encourage you, military, non-military, but as you continue your studies and as you get out into the world, I mean, have a broad mind, have a curious mind, look for opportunities to do something, different, than the norm. And I think that's a really important thing. I want to say hello to my former comrade, your commandant. What a great officer he is, and I've been inspired by Bill for a long time, and it's really great to see you here. And then, of course, General Broadmeadow. I don't know if you all know about General Broadmeadow. I mean, I really know him. And Mrs. Broadmeadow, good. I'm glad to see you here, Karen. Excellent. General Broadmeadow in the Marine Corps, he did extraordinary things. I mean, like extraordinary things. What a career of influence that this man had, and with Karen, by his side. If it's not public knowledge here at Norwich, it needs to be. General Broadmeadow was the guy who basically, in the middle of war, like completely transformed the Marine Corps, right? Completely rebuilt the way logistics was done, completely rebuilt how you do sustainment and preparedness, rebuilt how you did, barracks and facilities, and I mean, just like these massive muscle movements, across a large institution. That just doesn't just happen. I mean, you have to have a special individual to do that. So, General Broadmeadow, John, it's such a pleasure. Thank you so much for the invitation, and it's really great to see one of my good battle buddies, back here. So thank you very much. Are there any senior enlisted folks in the room? None. Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you about senior enlisted Marines and other services anyway. When I talk about the secret sauce of like the military ethic, and if you are going to be in the military, you're going to interact with the military, or even in the general workplace, there are people that you really need to know, and they're not necessarily the people that are at the top of the line and block chart. These are the people that really make things happen, and they do extraordinary things wherever they are in the org chart. And in the specific case that I'm thinking about, Marine Corps gunnery sergeants, or Navy chiefs, or Army sergeant first classes. And I've had each one of those types, working alongside me, in many of the billets that I've had. And I tell you. I think the way I think about it is, you come here and get a great education. School will make you smart, but you will get the opportunity to interact with senior enlisted and other like really savvy people, and that will make you wise, right? So if you want to be smart and you want to be wise, you have to think through your studies, you have to learn, but through your schooling here, and when you move out into the workforce or into the military, whatever it is, I mean, you look for those people that will help you become wise, so you really understand how things go, and your path will be straightened as a result. So, look, here at Norwich, I know salute your traditions and your stories and your legends. Service and sacrifice. I mean, from the founding, Norwich history is a pure reflection of national history, right? Citizen soldiers and patriots, but more broadly, you're making ready Americans, and I think that is such a powerful thing when I step on the campus here, and I'm thinking this as a generator of future American leaders in uniform, in corporations, wherever it is. But to me, that is such a powerful thought that I'm really blessed to be here today. And our history, of course, is more than just military exploits, right? It's the law, it's mathematics, it's science, it's space, it's business empires, national agencies, governors, CEOs, national security advisors. All of those people have sat in these seats or seats like this here at Norwich. Authors, journalists. I mean, it's right to celebrate the patriotism, the sacrifice, commitment, and accomplishment of every scholar that has walked through these doors, whether you're a military person or not a military person. And I think that standard of accomplishment, that tradition of accomplishment, is one of the things that that we learn and we observe, and I think we all get a lot from that. The things we hold dear, right? Like when you're here, these are the things that you learn at Norwich, right? These are the things that we owe to each other. We owe to our nation, and we owe to build and grow to pass down a much better world than we experienced, when we found it as it is. In fact, it's that tradition and heritage that run through the veins of every Norwich grad and every patriot. You'll learn much while you're here. Some of the lessons will stick, some of the lessons will not stick, but the outcomes of, again, not just those wearing a uniform, not just those that are entering academia, not just those that are going into the professions. Like it is that men and women committed in service and patriotism that go out into all of our organizations and our institutions across this country that actually make this country work. And so I really applaud you, for your studies here and your choice here to learn here at Norwich. It is meaningful, and me as an American, I really appreciate that. But you'll also learn it's not just about those virtues. I mean, you're going to learn very practical things that make careers, that make success, that make happiness. And this is like a really important component of your learning here. You're learning lots of things, but learning attitudes and learning how you make things happen, I think, is critically important. And here's a little bit of here maybe it's wisdom. No matter what you think you're going to do for a job when you leave this school, it ain't going to be that, right? No matter what you are. Even if you're even within a military context, I'm going to be a lieutenant in the Marine Corps. Well, guess what? Your path in that institution is something that you can only imagine, and it will evolve, over your career. Don't get laser bore-sighted on one objective for your career, because your life is going to be so much bigger than that, and you will find surprises at every turn. If you keep your eyes open, you'll find that you have this idea of I'm going to be this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do military service, and then I'm going to go into business enterprise, or I'm going to start a company, and you'll find that that it won't go exactly as you like it to, but if you have your eyes open, it will go in ways that will make you happy and will make you successful because of the momentum that you build, because it's something that you're building. Keep your mind open. Don't get tunnel vision on any particular outcome here from school. And while we reflect the values of Norwich, we each have to find our original path to success. And I'm here to tell you, each of these are unique, they're crafted, far more than a curriculum of study, and this is not heresy to the professors that are here, far more than a curriculum of study. Your future will be the product of the decisions you make, the friends you make, and the opportunities you make. Your success will be the sum of these things. And so it's really important that you keep your eye on those things, right? Ponder your decisions. Seek broad acquaintances, meet people, and curate your friends very carefully, because these are the things that will make you successful over the years. And you have a great fortune of entering a world of exponential change, and I want to talk about that now. Exponential change and exponential opportunities, and I'm gonna go through a couple of these, but what do they say? May you live in interesting times is a blessing and a curse, right? And so you're going to find you are living in very interesting times. I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. Many of you probably know as much or more than I do. So, but look, thinking about this, the operative word of the change that we experience, the change in our ecosystem, our environment, the way we think, the way we act, the operative word is transformation. Transformation, and I love this, and I hope you tuck this away because this is really important. Transformation, transform, means the form changes. That doesn't necessarily mean we throw everything out. It doesn't mean that the world changes sort of arbitrarily or in a way that, that we don't have any control or agency. What that means is we have to learn how to think about the way things change and not to just observe things as they are, but what is possible and how things change over time. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. Your success hinges on the trajectory of that change. And so like one of the most important things, and we'll talk about this here in a second when we start talking about Shadowfront, like as warfare changes, for example, it's critical that you not only, see and understand what's happening in the moment, but you need to see and understand where this lies in the trend and where does this take us to. And every sort of phenomenology, technological phenomenology, drones, whatever, all drive us to that same place, that transformed place where we can keep our eyes open to understand what's happening around us, and then we can act accordingly to achieve what we need to achieve. Your president and I spent some time in the Middle East, over the course of our careers. We worked for a guy named Mattis, and if that sounds like mad at us, if you say it quick, we worked for General Mad at us. But General Mad at us was a wonderful mentor, coach, and driver. I mean, he had no patience. He drove us to success. He blew through obstacles. He made things happen when everybody said it could not. And so, like that kind of trajectory, it was an honor every single day to work with General Mattis. But the things that that sometimes became apparent was in just a short 20 years ago. It seems like everything that we had. All the tools of war that we had, the systems that we had, the technology we had, were very much they were ancient, right? So like the equipment that we had was decades old generally. I mean, here's the thing. When General Broadmeadow and I were in Iraq, for example, we had paper maps. We had yellow stickies. We had maps on the wall. Maybe a PowerPoint slide of a picture of a map on the wall, non-interactive, forward-looking. I mean, it was completely static. So when we fought in 2003, we fought very much like soldiers, sailors, Marines, airmen fought in Vietnam, and actually not that far from Korea or not that far from World War II. Right? So like this idea, this sort of like technological stasis where, you have a set of systems and you upgrade them, you paint them, you make them shiny, maybe you add, a piece of kit on the side. That takes you only so far until you get to things like we experience today, transformation. The form changes. And this is true in any environment, in the educational environment, in the military environment, certainly. In the business environment today, I spend a lot of time working with companies today to understand the trajectory of change and being able to get out in front of that change. And that is a really powerful message that, that we'd like to talk about. Transformation, the form changes. Digital, think about digitally integrated financial markets, automated traffic flow on the highways, digital backbones, state-of-the-art chips, custom devices, energy research, fusion energy for me is a really powerful thing, because fusion energy, when we achieve fusion energy, think about all of the challenges that creating energy, makes real. When we get fusion energy enabled by artificial intelligence, then we'll be in a place where suddenly the world changes again. The form changes, because now we don't have to, pump oil or natural gas out of the ground. We don't have to, cover miles with solar panels, et cetera. Like, this idea of transformational change happening now and the trajectory of that accelerating, I think is something really important that, that all of you are going to experience over the course of your career. Transformation, the form changes. Like, warfare provides many, and again, I don't want to anchor on warfare, but, think about like Russia's war with Ukraine, right? Where it started with remember 2014, little green men, right? Down in the southern parts and the central parts of Ukraine, where suddenly without, in most cases, firing a shot, occupation of Crimea and a lot of other little small chunks of Ukraine. I mean, the form of warfare changed in that moment and has continued to transform since then. Think about like the Ukrainians now. Just a few months ago, if you think about redefining the aircraft carrier, right? What do we think about when we think about an aircraft carrier? A capital ship, large-scale munitions, expensive platforms. What do the Ukrainians mean by an aircraft carrier? They mean a box truck full of drones that gets driven on the highway to the gate of the facility that they want to destroy. Pop the hatch open, the driver zips away, and suddenly you have an aircraft capability that can destroy like strategic airplanes, right? Like, that to me is like the prototypical transformational change that we'll have to meet in almost everything, in almost all the forms of military operations and business as well. The transformation in the war, in the way wars are conducted, is the theme, right? The form changes. And so, things like, I hear a lot of people, and, many of you probably do the same thing. You hear somebody will talk about drones, and they'll sort of like, say, yeah, future of warfare. Oh, drones. And that is really the lazy man or lazy woman's perspective here of, okay, drone is a piece of technology. Now, how does that get integrated into a complete warfighting function? How does one artifact of technology change the way or transform the way that the battlefield is executed and the battlefield flows? These are sort of, in General Broadmeadow's day and my day, it was simpler, it was linear, it was understandable because there was such a precedent behind it. We understood the history of World War II and how they fought, and honestly, we could see a lot of that reflected in the way that we did operations just 20 years ago. Today, it's different. Transformation, the form changes, and we have to be cognizant about that in the business space, in the military space, wherever it is. So I'm eager to get to questions. So let me just kind of just close down just a little bit here. Look, we have to think about these things now when we think about it, and I'll just throw these out at you because I think these are really important. They're important in a military context, but they're important in a business context as well. The role of autonomy, autonomous systems, maybe agentic AI. Think about the role of autonomy and how we build autonomous functions, how we build autonomous institutions, how do we build autonomous components that help us accomplish our missions, whatever our mission is. That's an autonomous agent that runs down all of the legal precedents for you, if you're preparing a big case, for example. That's autonomous agents that can build medicines specifically applicable to the function of an individual human. I mean, these are the things that are right there at our fingertips. The idea of placing the human mind on a pedestal, which I think is absolutely imperative here in new types of warfare, right? Like process flow, integration of human decision making and autonomous decision making. How do we do that? Have we thought through, like, where are the ethical boundaries? Where are the lines as we start to do that? That is absolutely critical as we see warfare changing, and not just warfare, everything else. Human ethics and decision making. I just spent a week, with a group of multi-faith faith leaders, right, from almost every religion that you can imagine, and talking about like artificial intelligence and the role of AI and autonomy and humanity in a spiritual perspective, right? So like this idea of transformational change and how it changes the form, it's all the way into people's deep beliefs, right? It's not just about technical artifacts. It is, how are you going to operate in that space? How are you going to protect humanity, your humanity, and the humanity of others while we do this? Is that something that we're going to continue to value for the ethicists that are in the room, right? Like, how do we think about that? That is the kind of stuff that people are talking, people globally are now starting to really bore in and figure that out. I do think, let me just give you a couple more. Harvesting our institutions. And one of those institutions, I think things like digital governance, for example. I grew up in Michigan, so I'll just use Michigan as an example. Michigan governance, it's complete, it's paper forms, it's, driving down to the DMV, it's paying your taxes by writing a check. I mean, like complete transformation is going to happen, not just in a military sense, not just in a business sense, but also in the way we live our lives and the way that we interact with each other. And so this is a whirlwind. You know this. I guess I would start to set the stage here. Look, all of this stuff is part of a broad transformation that you can see and you can understand when you learn how to think about it. You can identify processes that are obsolete. How long does it take to update a curriculum, for example? Does that take a year? Do you do it every month because the technology is changing every month? I mean, like those kind of very close questions for how do you stay modern and stay up with the transformational curve, and no matter who you are, no matter what you're going to do when you leave this room. So I'm going to leave it at that. I really appreciate your attention, and I'd love to have some conversation here because this is such a deep subject. Yeah.
So, thank you very much, sir. We certainly appreciate your remarks, and also starting off the symposium, talking about not only just artificial intelligence and how things are changing, but also just the human capital aspect of it. And that's something that we at Norwich always want to put forward, the human capacity and the human capital. So I'm going to ask our cadet, Demetrius Manitas, if you could please come to the microphone. He is going to offer just a few remarks and then start us off with questions. And he's interested in becoming a Marine. He's a recruit, studies in war and peace. He's also from Greece. And so he's going to offer some remarks, a couple questions, and then everybody else, please, questions, just line up behind him, and then we'll see how far we get with Q&A. So over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
As an aspiring Marine, first of all, I'd like to thank you for coming here and informing us and starting up the Military Rider Symposium. So from what I understood is that, first of all, networking is very important, and it's a requirement, I believe, in order to continue on with life. I understood that slowly the world is transitioning and is transforming into a more modern state than what it used to be. So it's very important to be up to date with everything that we know. And then, sir, my question for you is, according to your book, you stated that one of the main ways that the 1st Marine Division and their success was with this trust. So my question to you, sir, was how can aspiring leaders be able to create this trust within their units?
Could you say that last sentence one more time? So
how can aspiring leaders create this success for their mission and their operation based on the trust that the unit has?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's kind of the operative question, because if you believe what I said, and I think the evidence is pretty strong, like that this is not a temporary adoption of technology issue. This means the form changes in every industry and in every military operation, in every governance environment. I mean, human beings will push back on this, but we'll have to have a level of cooperation between humans and machines in this future. And once again, the transformation captures that, right? If the way that we're going to do things changes, the way that you stay ahead, the way that you can think broadly and understand what's happening under your feet, and the way you can kind of predict what's going to happen, tomorrow, it really is all about understanding the transformational curve. And you can see it, you can see it in farming, you can see it in banking, you can see it in the law. I mean, so like this is not the conversation of just military weapons. This is a conversation of you, managers of your own future and managers of the future of all of us, you having the wisdom to think about transformation and how you will observe things that change, how you will shape things that change. Maybe you'll push back on changes that are not appropriate or things that you don't like. But all of this is the core of everything you're going to learn here, today, and everything you're going to learn here over the next, 4 years or however long you're here. This transformational curve, we've had lots of transformational events over time in our history. The history of technology, is a very broad expanse. But I think today is different, and today marks a change, and it coincides exactly with your education. As you walk out the door into a changed world, you're going to have to run fast and you will be at the head of that pack that really understands the change and make sure that you can do it in the right ways.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks.
So would you ask one more?
Just real quick, so cadets and students, we know you're a smart lot. This is an opportunity for you to ask some Q&A, so please just go ahead and you can move to that mic on the other side. It's just a really unique opportunity. I want you to take advantage of it, so don't be shy. So go ahead. Over to you for your second question, quickly.
And then, sir, you've had experience throughout your career, and then clearly when you moved and became for the Joint Staff for Intelligence and then later for the NSA. So from your personal experience, where would you draw the line for the ethical question that a lot of people have been having about AI usage on the battlefield?
Of AI?
AI's usage on the battlefield.
Yeah. So that is a critically important question, right? Like, how do we now, again, with kind of our core morality, and this, for speaking to an American Western audience here, military and civilian both, I think it's really important to understand, like one of the things that is most important to us is how do we shape our relationship between our technology and our humanity? And that sounds like very, ethereal, right? That sounds like something that's not actionable, but it is actionable, right? Like paying attention to, the maturation of large language models, for example. Right now large language model says something that, that angers us or whatever, maybe causes somebody to take an action, suicide, for example. There's a couple of examples of that now, where interaction with a large language model, I wouldn't say inspired, but sort of like facilitated, a suicide. And so, like, if that is an opportunity for the technology, then we have to think about, like, okay, how do we start to manage that? And that, large language models are one particular aspect. Obviously, there's a lot more to this than that, but it really raises a lot of questions about our humanity, and on the battlefield. Then that has enormous effect. When are you willing to launch an autonomous weapon, for example, onto a target? I mean, we do that today in a sense. If you're shooting a Hellfire missile, right? You aim it at the tank, you pull the trigger, or the Javelin rather, and the Javelin will do a trajectory, will find the target that it was told to hit, and then will optimize where it strikes, right? So we already have like these layers of limited autonomy within our systems and processes. So we just have to be really careful to think about like, okay, are our systems and processes adequate to reflect our moral stance, our human stance, our ethical stance? Does it align with the law of armed conflict, for example? These are questions that people have been grappling for a couple of years now. We'll be grappling for another decade on this, as the technology continues to mature. Great question. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, sir.
Good morning, sir. I'm Cadet
Could you stand
Ferrer.
up, please? I'm sorry. I'm just
I have a couple questions for you. Mostly having to do with AI. So when it comes to AI, I'm curious on the implementation of AI in the battlefield on a squad and a platoon level. And if you could ever see, like, foresee in the future them replacing lower enlisted. As lower enlisted, I'm just kind of curious, like, how it would be implemented. Not necessarily like drones, but like going towards the future. Like I mean, online we see that they have like AI robots with very like humanistic characteristics. Will those be implemented into the battlefield in order to preserve life?
Yeah, great question, right? And it gets to sort of, we love to talk about the technology, but the underlying ethic and the underlying opportunity where like artificial intelligence, especially in a tactical environment, for example, like I couldn't imagine a Marine platoon or even a Marine squad like maneuvering without immediate, situational awareness, right? I couldn't imagine a squad leader, a young, enlisted Marine or a young enlisted sailor, like thinking about like, okay, we're going to actually launch this operation without understanding, by measured understanding of like where the enemy is or where the enemy might be strong or where the enemy might be weak. So, with artificial intelligence especially, people think about artificial intelligence as a thing that does tasks. And I think it's much more appropriate to think of artificial intelligence as a system. A human is taking a machine and using that machine to execute a task. And so, like, it is so important to think about that, because if you just think about, well, we're going to take the AI out of the squad, well, then you might as well not even have a squad, right? Because like you're going to have all of that human operational thinking and all of that things that they've learned their entire life, not just what they learned, at officer candidate school, but like that focused knowledge, and with the law of armed conflict, in their mind, anybody here, who's been in a uniform, you know what the law of armed conflict is, right? Because Western nations follow that ethic, and so I think if you think about human-machine teams, and maybe that's a squad with a bunch of drones, maybe it's something more sophisticated with that, but those young people, those young soldiers, Marines, sailors, they're going to have to think through, their leadership is going to have to think through, okay, when can you take that shot? When can you not take that shot? When, what is a confidence interval that's going to allow you to take action on a target or not? And are we going to let a machine tell us that? Are we going to let a machine say, okay, you're green to fire because we think with enough, maybe we're 51% sure that that's an enemy target versus 49% it's a civilian target, right? Like those ethical dilemmas on the battlefield, and those dilemmas like echo back to like when you're building a system in the first place, and when you're training soldiers how to operate in that kind of environment. Like, we have to think about that now, right? Because the technology is available to us today. So now how do we make sure that we do it consistent with our ethics? And it's I just think it's too trite to just say, okay, that AI is going to do this. It won't. AI won't do anything. A human is going to direct an AI to do that. And so, like, how do you make sure that that path, that, all the way down, somebody pulling a trigger, is aligned with our ethical standard?
Understood, sir.
Thank you.
I totally understand the usage of AI, like when it comes to like engineer reconnaissance or like doing basic like tasks that are oriented in that way. When it comes to like combatant level, like live fire situations, if we get to the point where we're using AI, how do we know who to hold accountable? Because do we hold the robot or the technology accountable, or the operators who are making the ethical decisions on when to use them, and how do we hold them accountable?
Yeah, that's a great question. Here's my nightmare. You're in a combat outpost somewhere, and things are happening all around you, and bullets are flying overhead every once in a while, and the human, maybe there's a watchstander who's watching a screen, to look for some detection or whatever, and the human isn't sure, but the machine said 51%, so the human sort of lazily, intellectually lazy, says, or from exhaustion or whatever it is, that human in a moment of weakness or panic or fear can make a bad decision about, what, I'm not sure. The machine said it's this. I'm gonna trust the machine, right? And that's going to happen. We know it will. But how do you do that in a context? How do you build a context where smart human operators know the limits of the technology, know how to make good decisions in a really complex decision environment? I think again, our humanity, the way we're trained, especially in Western militaries, I think we can handle this, but we have to be very cognizant of the risks of in command and control, right? So I think command and control are really important words in this context. Command defines who actually has the legal authority to do something. But control is how do you actually execute that command, right? And that control is where danger lies, right? Because we may execute control in a way that the command did not actually anticipate, right? Or, was maybe against or unaligned with what the commander actually wanted. And those are the kind of things that become, it's one thing if you fire off a spare, a mortar round, but it's a lot more if if you bring a fleet of drones and destroy an entire compound, So the artifacts of this are they're really big, right? On the back end of that decision.
Thank you, sir.
Great, yeah, thank you, great question.
So we have about 3 minutes left, and thank all of you for your questions. And if we could, just have each of you come to the mic, state your question clearly and succinctly. And sir, you can choose if you'd like just to address quickly, all of them together quickly, but it just gives you a flavor of what's on the student's mind. So if you could,
Super.
One after each other, just ask your question, and then we have a couple minutes left.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Recruit Hart. With the need to transform as a branch of the few, how can the Marine Corps take steps to implement better systems and equipment when their budget is so tight? At what point are you being asked to make too much with too little, with manpower, equipment, and general capability?
Thank you. Next question, please.
Good morning. How would you address the main concerns on security risks, environmental impacts, and the overall fear of AI taking over certain job positions? And how would the use of AI within cybersecurity warfare be introduced in a more positive light?
Thank you.
Good morning, sir. Do you believe that with the advances of technology, modern infantry will die out?
Thank you.
Good morning, sir. With the widespread use of social media where malicious actors may use misinformation, framing of narratives, or abuse faith to spread propaganda or narratives to radicalize or destabilize, how can our society, lawmakers, or military plan to respond to the changing environment where many individuals, such as senior citizens or adolescents, may have their belief systems altered or be unable to decipher misinformation through that changing media environment?
Thank you. And finally.
Sir, I'm going to be relying more on your background in computer network operations for this one. With the advancing technology that we see now, as well as the outdated critical infrastructure defense plans we have in place, what steps would you recommend to go beyond the base level CMMC proposal currently to have a forward-thinking total cyber defense?
Great.
So, sir, complex questions that could fill a whole week for us.
These are the easy ones, Travis.
Yes, sir. So just a quick minute response, sir, and then we'll conclude.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're out of time.
Yeah, great questions all. I'm motivated by the questions because you guys are thinking the right way, and that's probably the most important thing. So let me give you one little vignette that satisfies a couple of these, I think. There is a thought, so inside the Department of Defense today or the Department of War, implementation of artificial intelligence is painfully slow. And there's a lot of reasons for that. One is fiefdoms, one is, the Army's never going to, do the same thing as the Marine Corps. The Navy's never going to do the same thing as the Air Force. The fiefdoms and the enterprises that just refuse to cooperate is a real, to my mind, is one of the greatest tragedies inside the Department of War, because you need broad understanding of this. And so I think that's really important. And the reason I bring that up is, one of the things, when with the new AI strategy coming out of the White House, for example, there's a kind of a thought of, well, we'll parachute some tech bros into the Pentagon, and they'll code this all up, and it'll be fine, right? And I think that really misses the boat, because that skips over all of the ethical process in the creative thinking ethically. And it skips the part where it's actually the functional experts. It's the pilot in the aircraft. It's the infantryman, carrying the kit. It's a mortarman, finding a target. Like, you can't have effective artificial intelligence application if you don't consult the people who own the functions. And so I hear it all the time. Oh, let's just grab some tech bros and they'll code this up in an afternoon. They don't know a thing about warfighting. They don't know a thing about the law of armed conflict. They don't know a thing about ethical structures. And so it is up to us, right, especially you wearing a uniform, and those of you who get into the defense space, for example, it is up to us to make sure that we are the guardians of process. We are the guardians of our ethic. We are the guardians of who actually gets to define how something is done or not done. And so, like those, I think that answers a lot of these. I'll say one thing about cyber, because I spent a lot of time, working on that target. This is going to be the battlefield of the future. When you think about the digital environment that all of our money, all of our services, all of our defense, all of these things are operating on large-scale digital enterprises. Every digital enterprise at large scale has vulnerabilities, and so it's going to be critical for us to make sure that we have protected systems that we can continue to trust. So thank you all very much. Really appreciate the questions and appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. So just before you leave the stage and everybody leaves, as a warrior scholar, sir, we'd like to give you a definitive book on Norwich history written by renowned scholar Alex Kershaw. But as a Marine, we'd like to give you something heavy to put in your rucksack. So all the best, sir. Thank you. Okay, thank you. And the symposium will continue throughout the day. Hope to see you throughout the day. Thank you very much.